Notice too, once I took this plate off earlier, that it's loose from the magnetic base. So there's another screw right here, and obviously it'll make that where I can separate it, but I don't want to get too much into that yet until I get in here, because I don't know what's connected inside. I'm just progressively working my way towards it. Well, that was pretty snug. Obviously had some Loctite or something on it. What I'll do too, obviously, as I do this, I'll inspect all these wiring pieces, because I want to make sure that this is not cracked. You want to go through, reworking everything only to find out that this wire is no good. But it looks good. I mean, it doesn't look like it's broken down at all. It doesn't look beat up, so that's a good thing. Has a wire nut here, but I suspect that it's connected inside. I may end up having to take this access plate off in order to make sure it's disconnected properly. Looks like there's 6 screws holding this panel on. One of them's missing. We'll have to see what we can find to fix that. Should be a pretty standard setup there. And again, you can see we end up pretty quick with a pretty good number of screws. I'm using my little ball end Allen wrench on this one. Can't get straight on it. Getting some interference on this housing right here. There's obviously a wire protruding down into here, into the mag base. That's why I didn't really want to separate all that yet. You can see back here there's a lot. This is very tight. This screw obviously was not specifically in the way for what we were doing, but I took it out. But that's pretty much the whole electrical panel. But you can see all these wires and all are nutted, behind. Good fittings. This housing is can't tell if it's hard plastic or if it's steel. I think it's hard. This is might be metal. Seems like it's metal. Don't want to get too crazy with it, but that's all the controls. These are my switches, my magnet switch here, and my motor switch here. Now what I need to do, so I got wires going down here. Can't get this out of the way. These wires go out into the magnetic bottom of the 2 magnet wires go and connect right here on this terminal block. Get a smaller flathead screwdriver so I can take those screws loose. Making sure that I have a good seat with my screwdriver. I don't want to damage any of this because it all looks like it's in pretty good shape. Keep backing this screw off here. Till I can pull that out. There's one. There. And 2. It should free me up to take the magnetic base loose. So I pull back a little bit here so we can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. These wires obviously come down through a hole in this housing. Take them through one at a time. Here's 1, 2. All right. So now that lets me dismantle the main base from the magnet. I want to make sure and be careful with these wires because obviously these are actually molded into this base unit. Now I will clean this up. Got some crud on it. I don't know if they had put any, I don't think they would have put any kind of bonding agent on that. But I'll definitely clean that up. Make sure that it's protected. Make sure all the surfaces are good on it. Should clean up pretty good. Oh yeah. I've got the electrics are separated, so now I can work on that panel. I'll get in on that in a minute and we'll see what we got going on there, but that's a unit. Now what I'm going to do is I've got to look, this wire goes through, comes right through here. So this is a compression nut, it looks like on top. Like I said, looks, I could tell that was damaged a little bit from before. So maybe they worked on this motor at some point. I see some tape here, right there. So I may end up having to take that loose to get it through the hole. So that tells me for sure that, well, nothing's for sure, but that tells me that this was probably serviced at some point, and that might have been where it had a problem. So I'll definitely make sure to fix that. We'll put some heat shrink on that. As you see that tape, this is a good example of, you know, some issues you may end up with tape. This tape, even though it's on there, it's not sticky anymore. So it's, you know, brittle. So just be aware as you use tape. Sometimes it's better to maybe think of a different solution. Heat shrink, I like heat shrink. It does pretty good. So, and also, don't ever buy cheap electrical tape. It's not that expensive to buy good tape. So go a little extra and make sure you get the good stuff, because the more than you're using of it, you don't want to get in a situation with this. You know, this is the hot wire on this unit. This is the hot wire. So if this unit is energized and you turn it on, if this gets exposed and touches the case inside, then because this is a metal housing, you will end up electrifying that housing and you can get shocked. So, you know, you definitely don't want to skimp on making sure that you do this correctly. So, and this wire, like I said, this tape is very brittle. There, see, it came apart. So, proper way to have done that, I probably would solder that together. That connection would have been soldered, because you can see, and if there's enough room in here, you might even do a small wire nut, but it's kind of tight in here, so I would have to test that to see, because if you could do it with a wire nut, that would be good. So this will be something got to keep up with. So it'll go in our Ziploc bag for this phase of the project. So you can see here this ground wire was caught in something, so I'll have to look and see what that housing, what that looks like. Might be able to do something with that. I was looking at these crimped ends to see, they look like they're all part of the same setup. So, but again, here, this is the electrical tape. It's not sticky at all anymore. It's brittle. So just be mindful of that. So this plastic housing screws out here. There we go. And then once I do that, that hole should be big enough now for me to bring these wires for the motor out. There we go. And what I'm going to do, just to keep up with everything, I'm just going to screw that right back down a little bit there. Keep all that together. So the next step, I'm going to take these bolts out here and see. Actually, I think I will actually take these bolts out on each side. I'll start with this side over here, because this is for adjustments here. So if I take this side loose first, this should probably be the fixed. Should be the fixed side. Let's see what size those are. Probably my 10 millimeter. Yeah, these are 10 millimeter. All right, so backed up a little bit here. I've got to raise the motor up. We got two of the bolts out here. I'm going to pull this next one out. So we pulled the bolts out of this side. One of them was obviously messed up. We'll have to work on getting a replacement for that, because apparently at some point it had been stripped a little bit. So now I'm going to pull 3 out of this side here, and then we'll see what that gets us. All right. So we took the bolts out of this side, and this is our first piece of our dovetail. This piece is just a piece of plastic, and it actually slips over this dovetail like this. So it just slides off. There's a bevel down here on this bottom that makes sure you align this the correct way. Just fits right on there like that. This one, it looks like it's got pins on it. We'll set this aside for a minute. Get this back over here. This dovetail is fixed. It has some guide pins on it, and we'll see about getting that off. It's aluminum. The dovetails are aluminum. I can see their pins are pushed in here and down here. Here you can see our gear assembly here. There's a little snap ring on it right there. See if I can shoot that thing across the shop. There's a total of 4. I already took 2 out a little earlier. And these will be the last 2 here for the motor. Should let the drill motor come away from the dovetail unit. So now we've got this dovetail joint. Set the drill motor aside for the moment. We'll bring that back in just a minute. what we got here, obviously there's 2 screws here in the dovetail that hold the rack in place. So probably won't pull that out. It'll probably clean up just fine like this. It cleans up pretty good. Surface looks good. All right, we'll set that aside for the moment. So now we're down to pretty much the base. I'm going to pull the I'm going to pull this pinion gear assembly out. I'm hoping that it'll come away pretty easy. Got some little picks here that do this job pretty good. If you don't have a set of snap ring pliers, you just have to be careful when you do this. I like to keep a hand close so that we don't shoot that thing across the room. So I'm using my little pick tools here because I don't have a set of snap ring pliers small enough for this, and I was able to get one of them in here and get the hook in the other one and pull it loose and pull it up. So now it started coming loose here, but I'm going to put my finger right here just so that doesn't fly across the room when it does come off. So it's coming loose there. I'm shooting for now is just to keep up with it so it doesn't shoot across the room. There you go. There's the snap ring. Basically tap the drive shaft loose there. That should let my pinion gear come out. That all looks to be in really good shape. This is a got a brass bushing on each side. Basically there was a bushing here on this side, and then there's a bushing here that goes on this side. So this goes through, these bushings fit in, the pinion gear sits in the middle like this, and then these are on each side. I want to try to get that loose without stripping it out, or this piece is aluminum and that set screw is obviously steel, so they could be seized together. I think for now this one we're gonna wait. We'll come back to this one because we got to get that screw out. We got to get that piece out. So now I'm going to take the rest of these hex head screws out. Try to be easy with these because the housing is aluminum, and obviously the screws are steel, so I don't know how long they've been in there, but it looks like they're coming loose pretty good. I don't want to take any chance of them being seized in there and breaking off, but so far so good. Got a screw here. It looks like it might be a slide stop actually. Yep. Yeah, that rack hits that screw, and that's what stops its travel this way. So that may have actually been bent just from use. All right, so that's what's going to take the pushing the pins out of the housing with the dovetail. little bit at a time. Obviously, I don't want to bend anything. Coming out pretty easy. There you go. Here's the other end. Fits right in there. Let's clean it up good. We'll get all these surfaces clean and figure out what I want to paint, what I don't want to paint. This has a stamping on this casting. It says 1901. Looking pretty good. I can see a little bit of electrical spark. This is probably what happened before. If you can see that in there or not, but there's a char mark right inside here. Get my finger out of the way. Right here. The aluminum is arced right there, and the housing is black. That's why it's important to make sure that you have proper insulation on all your wiring. And I might even go in here with a piece of sandpaper and chamfer these corners down, because there's no need for them to be that sharp inside there. If they're rounded off, it'd just be that much better, but you can definitely see where that thing shorted out before. So now what I'll do is I'll take all of these parts for this particular section, because I've got all my dovetails and all my adjustment pieces and all my nuts and screws over here. See, and I can put all this into its own Ziploc bag. See, you can see that just from that housing, there's a lot of parts. Keeping those separated so you understand where they go is very important. And what I like to do is I keep Ziploc bags in my shop, just regular quart size bags, quart size Ziploc bags, as well as the gallon size Ziploc bags. You know, these are very handy to have. You just buy the big boxes. Don't take your wife's. Go buy your own, and that way you have what you need to keep everything organized. Because, like I said, this is a lot of parts came off of this housing. The more modules you can break down, the better it is when you start putting it back together, because these like parts go to a like area. So if you've got all these parts and you're trying to figure out where you are and what you're doing, you know, it's just by having it broken down in these bags, it just makes it easier. You know, if you don't have Ziploc bags, you can just put it in different boxes, but I like the Ziploc bags because I can reuse them. All these go in together for this phase of my project. 40, 1, 2, 3 in the housing. That's 44 pieces. That's just in this part. So keeping up with it, you know, and I've not gotten to the electrical panel, which I'm going to start playing with next. So these 44 pieces now are all broken down in their little storage. So I've got these 44 pieces, and then from earlier today, this is the arbor pieces. I didn't even count those pieces, so there's 20 or more parts in there. So we're 60 to 70 parts right now. and we're still disassembling. So keeping it organized gets to be a chore. So lots of pictures, video. You know, just because I'm putting a video on YouTube don't mean you can't video what you're doing when it comes to work, because sometimes a picture doesn't tell you how it came apart. So just by having a video of it, how it came, you know, was disassembled, can go volumes to getting it put back together. Okay guys, that's going to be about it for the disassembly. We've got a few more pieces that we want to tear into. I've got the pinion gear here that I want to finish taking this part down, and I want to repair the bolt that's broke off inside here. That's just a standard ease out, you know, drill it, do an ease out on it. Hopefully I won't have to drill it out completely. Hopefully it'll be easy enough to get out without any major effort. And I want to take this off as well, figure out which way I want it to be, a right hand or left hand setup. Like I said, we ended up with about 65 or 70 pieces so far. It's a lot of parts. Again, my name is Mike Ray. Hope you guys are enjoying my videos. If you will, please subscribe, and looking forward to you watching the next video.